Hello everyone! So we have avocado toast, hash brown Montana, and sugar here taking a little bath. So the reason I have sugar in with avocado toast and hash brown Montana is I'm hoping that they become friends, because honestly, sugar doesn't really have any like duck friends, so I'm hoping that by putting them all together, they're gonna become friends. But I just want to give you all a fair warning. They are probably gonna fight a little bit. That's just part of them establishing their natural dominance. Ducks kind of do that. They have a social hierarchy called a pecking order. So sugar is trying to establish her dominance to be on top of the pecking order. So while they're swimming, she might peck at them a little bit. Nothing to worry about though, but I figured I'd just give you guys a heads up. Sorry, I did not mean to put that there. I'm streaming both on Instagram and YouTube right now, so you can watch from wherever you want. And I just want to thank Miss Sheringham Boom for buying the first Instagram badge. Thank you so much for supporting our live stream. I'm so excited to answer your guys' questions, and I hope you're all having a great day so far. Yes, so the ducks do have breeds. These are all called call ducks, C-A-L-L. Sugar is considered a white call duck, and then hash brown Montana and avocado toast are considered penciled call ducks. The babies have a lot of fun swimming just because normally they spend most of their day in the brooder and then they get to come swim twice a day. So unlike the adult ducks that can swim all the time, these guys just get like periodic swimming. So they really enjoy it. You'll see them splashing around a bit. I typically fill the tub up to those little edges right there so that if they get tired, they can just hop out on their own. Yes, so all of the ducks in here right now are all females. Avocado toast and hash brown Montana, I had them DNA tested to confirm that they were females just so I could make sure that I was adding females to my flock, because previously, until I got these ducklings, I had too many males and they just were, overmating the females, so I made sure to add some extra females. How do I come up with the ducks' names? So honestly, I just kind of decided to start naming them after Dunkin'-themed things when I was 16 and I first got Munchkin. Munchkin was my first miniature duck, and I thought Munchkin was the perfect name because it's the name of Dunkin's miniature donuts. And then ever since then, I just kind of decided to name all of my ducks after Dunkin'. Raven, of course, being the exception. But other than that, I just thought Dunkin' themed names would be cute. Sometimes I do hatch baby ducks. Like a couple years ago, we hatched Donut, which is Munchkin and Maple's daughter. And then last year I hatched Salt and Pepper, which were for a friend of mine. These guys I bought from somebody else though. What is my duck's staple diet? So they eat something called Missouri waterfowl maintenance feed, and that's basically a pellet formulated specifically for ducks. It's fed on water so they don't choke on it, and it kind of looks like rabbit pellets, I guess, but it's made for ducks, which is mostly made of like fish protein. The oldest duck I have, I believe, is Maple. I don't know exactly what his age is because when I bought him, he was already an adult. But I'm assuming he's at least like 6 years old because I've had him for 5 years. And he's just kind of aged, faster than my other ducks, I guess you could say. Like, he is starting to go blind. So I do assume he is older than 6, but I'll never really know for sure just because he was already an adult when I got him. So when you wash ducks, you don't need to give them soap or anything. They actually do a really good job of cleaning themselves just with clean water. If your duck does have an illness called wet feather though, they can be washed with Dawn dish soap. What breed of duck would I recommend to a beginner duck owner? So anything that's not a heavy breed or a super small breed like mine is what I would recommend for a first time duck owner. Something like Indian Runners, Khaki Campbells, just a medium or light breed I think is perfect. Just because the heavy breeds tend to have a lot more like health issues because they're so big and they sometimes can't like hold up their own body weight. And the small breeds can fly like mine, so they're just a little bit harder to take care of, but really most ducks are very similar. So the breed doesn't make that much of a difference. I actually have 9 ducks total. So in here we just have Sugar, Hash Brown Montana, and Avocado Toast. Someone said they're having a fly problem in their coop. So what I would recommend is, first of all, putting something called First Saturday Lime in your bedding. It's not an agriculture lime, it's not a barn lime, it's a hydrated lime. So it's easy, it's safe for you to touch, unlike other types of lime. That just kind of helps deter bugs. And then I would also set up fly traps. It doesn't really matter what kind, but fly traps that aren't near your coop. So you could put them like in the woods far away from your coop, but essentially you're going to be attracting the flies away from your coop rather than right to your coop. Sugar doesn't get along with the other ducks well, and she also doesn't get along with people well. That's why I'm really trying to bond her with these 2 baby ducks, because I'm hoping that if she becomes friends with them, then she won't be on the bottom of the pecking order anymore, and she'll just hopefully be a lot nicer in general. So far, I mean, she has gotten closer to these ones. Like when I first put her with them, she wouldn't even go near them, but now they kind of hang out just a little bit, like they'll sleep kind of close to each other. So I'm hoping that they become friends. Someone asked, how long have I been raising ducks? I started raising ducks when I was 5. My parents got me my first ducks for my birthday. So that would put us at like 16 years now that I've been loving my little babies and having fun with them. What kind of climate do ducks prefer? So ducks can live in hot climates or cold climates. They're pretty hardy in pretty much anything. They do enjoy snow, and they don't typically get very cold on their own. Ducks actually do very well down to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty cold. As long as they have shelter from the wind, they do very well. So I live in Pennsylvania. We have really hot days, we have really cold days, and they don't seem to care either way. And yes, ducks can grow their feathers back. Typically, what we'll see is that during molting season in the fall, they'll lose a ton of their feathers all at once, and then they'll grow them back and they'll have pretty beautiful new feathers. Yep, Mr. Whip has been pretty hard on Sugar this past mating season. So that's why she is now separated from my other ducks. So she's living inside of my house right now with the babies. And then once the babies have all their adult feathers, then they're all going to go together with my adult ducks, which leads me into my next question, which was, how do you introduce your new ducks to your other ducks? So these 2 babies haven't met my entire flock yet. They've only met Sugar. And when I do introduce them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the baby ducks and I'm going to put them in like a dog kennel, like an open air wire crate, inside of the duck pen. So the ducks will be able to see each other, but they won't be able to like peck at each other. Once they get a little bit more used to each other, then I'm going to open the cage, and then they're going to be able to interact. They're probably going to fight a little bit because they do have to establish their pecking order. That's just a natural part of being a duck. They have to fight it out and figure out who's the most dominant duck and who's the least dominant duck. Right now, Sugar's the least dominant duck in our flock, which is, I think, why it's a good idea to bond her to these ducklings first. But hopefully that will all go well, and they'll be integrated within a few weeks. So I only have 3 of my ducks in here right now. My other 6 ducks are outside. So the babies get a bath once or twice a day, just depending on how much time I have. And the adult ducks, they pretty much can swim whenever they want because they have a pond in their house. I don't use anything to clean the ducks. You should never really put soap on a duck unless they have an illness. The only thing they need to clean themselves with is water. All of my ducks can fly, although Sugar doesn't fly very well. They're a miniature breed, so they have a lot more ability to get flight compared to most other domestic breeds. The names of these ducks are Sugar, which is the white one, Avocado Toast, which is the one with the stripe on its bill, and Hash Brown Montana, which is the one with the black bill. So I don't recommend using anything like a chicken saddle or like any kind of fabric that you would put over generally a chicken to protect them from mating on a duck. And the reason for that is because ducks are constantly swimming. So let's just say your duck has a chicken saddle on, which is essentially to protect the chicken from mating, and then it gets in the pond, it's probably going to get soggy, it'll ruin their feather quality, and just fall off because they are swimming. So that's typically why we don't use those types of things with ducks, but they work well for chickens, obviously, because chickens aren't swimming. So that's why when I have mating problems, I just separate the ducks. It's just honestly easier and better for the ducks. I do have a dog. You might be hearing them barking in the background a little bit. Charlie asked how old are the ducks? So Sugar is about 3 years old, and the two babies are about 5 weeks old. I don't ever have wild ducks come around to meet my ducks. Right now we don't really live anywhere super close by a pond where wild ducks would be anyway, so that's probably why. But domestic ducks and wild ducks don't generally tend to intermingle because the wild ducks don't really want to come super close to humans. And of course, where there are domestic ducks, there are humans. Someone asked, do ducks bite? So they can. They don't have teeth though. Like my ducks don't typically bite me except for Sugar here. Sugar is a little bit of a brat, and Sugar will bite anyone. They don't have teeth, but they do have lamellae, which kind of resemble teeth. Someone asked how often do I do these, so I actually haven't gone live on YouTube until a couple days ago, so this is only my second one. And then for Instagram, I try to do it like once a week. Again, I'm not really great at it. We're great at remembering to do it, but I'm trying to get better at it and live stream more because I love just like connecting with all you guys and answering your questions on live. And I found out that on YouTube, I can like re-upload the videos. I don't know if you guys would even like want to see those, like the live streams that I'm doing right now. If you want to like watch those back, I found out that it's an option that I can just like upload it after I stream. So I might do that. My favorite duck is definitely Munchkin. You can see in the video that I posted yesterday about making a Dance Moms pyramid for the ducks. Munchkin is on top because Munchkin is definitely my favorite. She's super friendly with all kinds of humans and ducks too, and that's why she's definitely one of my favorites. I have had ducks get sick before. So last fall we had a duck named Duncan, and Duncan ended up with liver failure. We never found out what could have caused the liver failure, and unfortunately she did end up passing away from it. But there's also like super like non-serious things that have happened to the ducks. But we have a really awesome vet. She's quite far away, but she's super awesome. She takes great care of the ducks if anything ever happens. Someone asked, do ducks like songs? So I typically have podcasts playing for the baby ducks. And that was just to kind of get them used to human voices. And it does appear that they enjoy listening to those podcasts. I just ask Alexa to play like whatever podcasts come up. So they have a lot of different things that they've listened to. I have never taken my ducks abroad before just because you need really specific like permits to take a duck or really any livestock from one country to another. Even when we just travel like from state to state, we have like permits and stuff for that, like a CVI depending on what state you're going into, which always involves taking them to the vet. So international travel probably not going to happen, but I would love to take the ducks to more states. So my Instagram channel for the ducks is called @duncan.ducks, and my YouTube channel you can find just by searching Duncan Ducks. I have noticed that my ducks can definitely differentiate between people. Like all of my ducks definitely know me, and they know like my boyfriend and my sister, but when it comes to like other people, you can kind of tell like they're just a little bit different and they don't necessarily know who those people are. How expensive is it to keep ducks? So I spend about $50 every like month and a half on duck feed, which is I believe a 40 or a 50 pound bag. And I have, well, that's technically the cost for 7 ducks. I have 9 ducks now, but you know, they're not full grown yet, so they don't really count. And those that duck feed is one of the more like expensive kinds, and you also have to keep in mind that my ducks are miniature ducks, so they don't eat nearly as much as full-size ducks would. If I had full-size ducks, I'd probably go through at least 3 times that amount of feed. I'm gonna try and close the door, so maybe you guys won't hear the dog barking anymore. How much land do you have to have for ducks? So it really depends on where you live. Like in my community, I believe the ordinance is you can have 25 chickens or ducks per acre, and you have to have a minimum of 2 acres of land. But that's different depending on like where you live. My ducks love baths. How many times do they lay eggs? So these are a miniature breed. So typically these guys only lay between like 50 and 100 eggs per year, which is really low compared to most other breeds of ducks. Like Pekin ducks or khaki Campbells might even lay like 300 eggs a year, which is crazy. But these guys just weren't bred to lay eggs really. When is the perfect time to buy ducks? I would recommend buying ducks in the springtime, simply because that way they have time to get warm. Like one year I got ducklings in February, and unfortunately we had a really long winter, so the ducklings were almost full grown, but I had to keep them inside longer than you would if you brought them in the spring because it was too cold for the babies to go outside. Once they have all their adult feathers, they're perfectly fine to go out in the snow and stuff, but as babies it's just really hard to buy ducks in like the fall, winter, just because it's, cold outside. But spring, summertime is perfect. And once the babies are, fully feathered, then they can go right outside. So the United Kingdom has their own poultry association. So I don't know how many recognized breeds they have, but here in the United States, we have 28 recognized duck breeds. I do know that the United Kingdom has call ducks, and they have some different varieties than we have here in the United States. I would love to do Munchkin plushies again. So I actually did reach out to that company that I used the first time that I made the Munchkin plushies, and I haven't heard back yet, but they do take a really long time. Like last year, I think we started working on them in February. I didn't get the prototype until the end of July, and then we went live in maybe August, and they weren't ready to ship until November. And that's just because they're like an individual product. It's not like we're like mass producing thousands of them. I would love to do one of Munchkin and one of Maple this coming year, but it all just depends on when I hear back from the company. They're really busy people over there. What sort of temperature is the bath water? So you never want the water to be like super hot for them. So I just do either like room temperature or slightly cold. What are the names of the ducks in the bath? We have Sugar, which is the white one, Hash Brown Montana, which is the one with the black bill, and Avocado Toast right here, which has a stripe on his bill. Her bill, sorry. Munchkin does have a partner. Maple is her fiance. I did have them get engaged on Valentine's Day this year, so hopefully sometime during this summer, you are actually going to get to see a little duck wedding on my channel. Of course I love ducks. I think the cutest duck that I own is probably Munchkin. She's definitely my favorite. I think most longtime subscribers of the channel definitely know that because you see her in most of my videos compared to my other ducks. And that's just because Munchkin, first of all, she loves to go on car rides, and my other ducks don't really enjoy car rides, so I try not to take them into the car unless they have like a vet appointment or something. These ducks, so Sugar's about 3 years old, and the babies are only 5 weeks old. They're so cute when they just dive around and, hang out. Munchkin isn't in here right now, but if you look at my other videos, she is the white duck with a bunch of black bill freckles. So you don't necessarily need a pond if you have ducks, but they do need access to swimming water. So I would always recommend at least having like a large kiddie pool or a dog pool for them. Oh, Sugar. Okay. Sugar said, I don't want to take a bath anymore. And she went right into her little hut. And the babies are just still having fun, of course. Oh, she's good. Ducks, they are not very good at landing. So like even when they fly around outside, like usually in the morning when I open the door, they will basically take a lap around the house and just fly. And they're just not good at landing, to be honest. This is not Sugar's cage. This is just what I use them to carry them upstairs because I don't want them pooping on the floor, obviously. So this is just, like, this is what Munchkin goes in when she's in the car, and then I, like, buckle her in. But downstairs, they actually have, like, a little brooder set up, which is where the babies, like, sleep because they still need the heat. They have a little ceramic heat plate that they sit under to keep them warm. Bob the Bunny asked what made me decide to get ducks, and honestly, I've just kind of always had ducks. Like, my parents got me ducks when I was 5 for my birthday, so I've just kind of always fell in love with them. I do have lots of different shapes of ice for Munchkin, so she does have some ice that's like duck-shaped, which I think is really fun, but she doesn't seem to like those ice cubes because they're kind of big. I also have an ice machine that makes pebble ice. I think that's definitely her favorite. And then the fridge we have makes like crushed ice, and then I also have like little square ice that is really annoying to get out of the tray, but Munchkin seems to like that too. So their coop outside is just like basically a shed. So that's just one level. I haven't really experienced my call ducks being territorial, but I think it's really different for just every duck. Is inbreeding common in domestic ducks? So I would say yes. Like, the ducks don't realize like who their parents are. So Maple and Donut definitely breed. I don't hatch Donut's eggs for that reason, but this is gonna sound so weird. But like in poultry breeding, people call it line breeding, where they'll breed like related ducks, and apparently it doesn't cause anything like weird like it would in humans. But personally, that's just wrong to me, so I would never do that. But that's what other people do. If I had like a ton of acres for the ducks, I probably still wouldn't just let them wander around because at least where I live in Pennsylvania, we have so many predators like hawks, eagles, owls are some things that fly. We also have things that can dig underneath the fencing like hawks, coyotes. Did I just say hawks? I meant foxes. Foxes, coyotes, fisher cats, raccoons, possums, skunks. Just there are so many things that could harm my ducks. That's why I just keep them in their predator-proof pens unless I'm outside with them. Now, someday I would love to have like a duck rescue. This isn't really the best area to do that, though, unfortunately. Like, there just isn't much of a need for it here. But if I could maybe live like further south where they have like a wild Muscovy problem, I could probably manage that there. And then maybe we just have like a super fenced in like property with a top cover, and that might be an option. But I would definitely never just leave my ducks out to free range just because there's just way too many predators. Unless we lived on like an island. I've heard there are some islands that don't have any predators, and that would be super cool. But it's also probably hard to get a duck on an island, so... So ducks don't quack all the time. A lot of the time they're actually super quiet, but I do have like two broody ducks right now actually. One of them is Donut. So she's been like honking all the time, and it's really annoying because it's really, really loud. And most of the time they don't honk like that, but just because she's broody, which essentially broody just means that she wants to lay on eggs. They just kind of go crazy and they honk a lot. Oh, Maddie, thank you so much for sending this super. And she said, Dunkin' Ducks times Urban Rescue Ranch crossover when? So we actually did a collab together last year. I sent Ben a dozen duck eggs. And unfortunately, only one of them hatched, which was probably just due to shipping. I think it took like 10 days for the eggs to arrive to him, which is crazy because I paid for 2 day shipping. So that was crazy. But he did hatch one of my eggs, which was Munchkin's baby. And his name was Timbit. Timbit's adorable. We love Timbit. But unfortunately, I believe Timbit flew away. So, I mean, that's just part of having ducks like these guys that can fly. So yeah, there's that. But Ben and I are great friends. I love what he's doing. And if you guys don't follow the Urban Rescue Ranch, you should definitely check it out. Obviously they do a ton of rescue and they have this awesome like sanctuary that they're working on constantly. And I love all the animals that Ben gets to raise, and it's just a really fun channel to watch. Where do I get my ducks? So they're all from a bunch of different places. Like Munchkin came from a friend of mine. Raven and Maple came from a poultry show. Sugar and Mr. Whip and Bubbles came from a breeder. Just a bunch of different places, honestly. Sugar's still hanging out in here. She's just drying off her feathers. And the babies are just chilling. I'm trying to go live more often. I don't honestly have like a live schedule though. I just kind of go live whenever I happen to feel like it, I guess. There's nothing really wrong with Sugar. Sugar's just in here because she's missing some of the feathers on the back of her neck, and that's because when she was mating, they got pulled out. These two baby ducks love to cuddle with me, and so does Munchkin. The rest of my ducks aren't very much like considered cuddlers. I'm really lucky. I ended up with two super, super friendly baby ducklings this year. These guys are awesome. These baby ducks are penciled call ducks, and Avocado Toast is the one with the stripe on her bill, so she's the one in the back right now. And then Hash Brown Montana has like a fully solid black bill. So yeah, the breed of these ducks is like literally called call ducks, and then this coloration here is called penciled. Technically, penciled isn't like a recognized color by the American Poultry Association. They are working to get it added by like showing them, but that just kind of takes a long time. But I don't care if they're not a recognized color. I just think they're pretty. So I bought these ducks. These are not the babies of my ducks, and that's because I really wanted to make sure that I got female ducks. I believe my oldest duck is Maple. I don't know his exact age, unfortunately, because when I did buy him, he was already an adult. He's got to be at least 6 because I've had him for 5 years, and he is going blind, so I assume he's even older than 6, just because typically ducks don't really go blind until they are quite old. So I can't really know for sure, and I never will know for sure how old he is, but I will say he's at least 6. Donut is going to turn 2 years old this year. My current male to female ratio of the call ducks that I own is 3.5 to 1, which is essentially, wait, let me count again. I have 6, 7, yeah, okay, so I have 7 females and 2 males. So last year we lost one of our females, so that's why I ended up getting 2 more females this year to kind of balance that ratio back out again. Swan Cece asked if the ducks have ever escaped. So none of the ducks that I have currently have ever escaped, although a couple years ago I did have a duck named Oreo. Oreo was a beautiful East Indie duck. She had a ton of black feathers and then a bunch of white feathers, so she kind of looked like an Oreo Blizzard from McDonald's. And Oreo, unfortunately, was completely blind, so Oreo used my other duck, her daughter, Raven, who you guys know, as kind of a seeing eye duck. So one day, Oreo got scared, and so she flew away, and she couldn't find her way back home because she was blind. So what I ended up having to do is actually take Raven out and have Raven quack to her so that they could call to each other. And Raven actually was able to find Oreo by calling to her. And then I basically took Raven and threw her into the neighbor's yard because that's where we could hear Oreo coming from. And Raven walked up to Oreo and then they walked back home together and all was good. But it was really scary at the time because, I mean, she just got scared and flew away. And obviously, since she was blind, she couldn't really, find her way back home. So Oreo was actually the only duck that I ended up having to clip her wings. The rest of my ducks are were totally free to fly. Oreo, I had to clip her wings because obviously I couldn't really let her fly away accidentally and not be able to find her way home again. So I have had one duck run away, but luckily she came back. In my experience, it's pretty common for ducks to go blind when they get old, but that's just of the ones that I've had. I can't speak for everybody else's ducks, really. The first duck I ever looked after was the duck my parents got me for my 5th birthday, which was Queenie, and then my sister had one named Quackers that lived together. Starter breed for new duck owners, I would recommend anything that's like a medium to light sized breed. So these guys are considered like extra small breeds, so I wouldn't really recommend them just because they can fly and that's a bit more difficult to handle for new duck owners. And I don't recommend heavy breeds like Pekins or Rowans because they're bred for meat and that can cause a lot of health issues for them. Like sometimes they just can't bear their own weight, so I don't really recommend that, especially for new duck owners. But really any breed is going to be friendly if you raise it correctly. So khaki Campbells or runner ducks are 2 great examples of ducks that I would definitely recommend. Their little peeps are so cute, aren't they? Yeah, shake your little tail feather, avocado toast. You're so cute. These little guys are not mating yet. They haven't reached maturity yet, so not quite yet for them. Is there a version of spaying and neutering for ducks? So in a lot of countries, it is illegal to actually like neuter a duck. And that's because it's really, honestly, super risky for them. I mean, putting a duck under anesthesia, you essentially have like a 50-50 chance of them coming out of it or not. Because, I mean, I'm no vet, but from my understanding, when they put them under anesthesia, they think they're underwater, so they stop breathing sometimes. So it's kind of just a 50-50 chance of will they wake up or not. I wish that they could develop like some kind of hormone thing for the males to kind of get them to be a little less intense during mating season. And then for the females, there is something that they can use to have them stop laying eggs. But again, that is technically illegal in the United States. You can still get it. You just have to sign like a ton of paperwork basically saying that you will not eat the duck or ever use its eggs again. And that's because since they're livestock and they could potentially be used for food and you're putting something inside of their body, the FDA just kind of regulates that they don't want them ingesting something that a human could then ingest, I guess. The only other ducks of mine that these ducklings have met so far is Sugar, who hopped out on her own and she's just hanging out, as you can see, angry as ever, typical. What foods can ducks not have? So I would never give them citrus fruits because that can cause calcium absorption problems. The same goes for spinach and tomatoes, or really anything that's super acidic. I also wouldn't give them any kind of dairy products just because birds are lactose intolerant. And avocados are extremely dangerous for any kind of bird. yes, Mr. Whip did rip off Sugar's neck feathers. You can see she's missing some. They are starting to grow back though, and she's only been with the babies for a few days, so hopefully they'll be all the way back quite soon. Look at little avocado toast. She's so cute. If you see the little spikes on the side of her wing, that is actually new wing feather growth. Kind of crazy. Hash Brown Montana grew in her wing feathers a lot faster than avocado toast did. I'm not gonna lie, yeah, they do smell pretty bad. That's just kind of the nature of ducks. They poop just about every 15 minutes. So, yeah, kind of crazy. What age do you recommend call ducklings to go swimming for the first time? I usually wait about a week before letting them swim, but they are fully capable of swimming from the day they are born. It's just that when they're raised in captivity, they can like get super, worn out super quickly. They also don't have the oils from their mother like they would in the wild that kind of keep them afloat. So while they can swim the day they're born, I just recommend waiting like at least a week. And then when you first start letting them swim, make sure they have a way to get out of the water. Because unfortunately, a lot of ducklings can drown because they just aren't fully equipped to stay afloat for long periods of time by themselves. So the white feathers aren't their baby feathers. Those are actually adult feathers too. You can see on like the back of Toast's neck, there's some baby feathers that are a little bit more like fuzzy looking than the rest of the feathers. But when these guys grow up, they're kind of going to look like a mix between donut and munchkin. They're going to have a lot of like those brown feathers, and then they're also going to have some white ones as well. Why is Sugar angry all the time? Honestly, I don't really have a good answer for that. When I first got Sugar, she was super, super aggressive, and I figured just spending a lot of time with her, she would become friendly just like all my other ducks. Did not work. She's just been like that since the day I got her, and kind of always been like that. I have not found anything to really make her more friendly, unfortunately. Are my ducks friendly to visitors? So Munchkin is typically the one that I bring out and let everybody pet just because she's like super, super, super friendly with everyone. But the other ducks are friendly as well, except Sugar, of course. But Sugar's usually Munchkin's usually my go-to for letting other people pet her. I don't typically put any toys in the bathtub for them, but in their brooder downstairs, they have like ping pong balls and just a couple other random little objects that they'll play with. And that's because I actually had read a study just before I got these guys called the modification of fear in chicks. And essentially it was a study done to try and see how to get like the friendliest, baby chicks. And they would put like a different object in their brooder every single day. And by the time they were 30 days old, the chicks that had new objects introduced to them were a lot more friendly towards humans than the ones that didn't have any new objects introduced to them. So that's why I did that with these guys, and I think it worked out pretty well because these guys are super, super friendly. Do I ever cut their toenails? So for the most part, my ducks keep their nails pretty well trimmed all by themselves. But there are a few ducks like Raven who isn't very good at trimming her own nails. So for her, I do have to trim those for her. Julia, yes, I do believe that Sugar's like health issues, just because she's probably like inbred, and because she's bred to be so small and she has a harder time breathing, a harder time laying eggs than other ducks. That's probably a key factor in why she's so like angry all the time. And also because she's my smallest duck, so she gets picked on by the other ducks, and she doesn't really have any duck friends, which for anyone who missed that, the reason I'm integrating Sugar with the ducklings now versus integrating them with all the other ducks at once is because I'm hoping that they become friends with Sugar, and maybe she'll be a bit friendlier if she actually has some duck friends. Jake, I will have to reach out to Ben from the Urban Rescue Ranch and see if he would like to hatch some more call ducks. My biggest duck is Donut, which is Munchkin and Maple's daughter. I love other duck channels. Of course I do. Most of the ducks that I'm like friends with are on Instagram. They're not really on YouTube. Like the Venture Ducks, Fatty and Friends, Sweetwater Ducks. There's just so many cute ducks on the internet. Emily from House and Hens, she has like I guess she does a lot of like DIY and stuff, but she also has ducks. I love her ducks. There's just pretty much, I guess you could say most of the ducks that you would probably know. I also know them, follow them, love them. There's one channel on YouTube that's really big for ducks, and I can never remember the name of it, but I love them too. Maple is also a call duck. He's considered a cinnamon call duck, which is not a recognized color, but he's definitely still a call duck. I love the duck song. I actually made a remake of the duck song once with Munchkin and Maple. I had Munchkin play the guy at the lemonade stand, and Munchkin played the duck. Yes, that is the name of the duck channel. Somebody just mentioned it in the chat. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce it, but it's Ruzo Arts. They have little call ducks just like mine, and they're so, so cute. My favorite duck is definitely Munchkin, just because she's my friendliest duck and she likes to hang out with people and go on all kinds of like trips and stuff. What is the minimum amount of water that they need to swim? I guess you could say a kiddie pool would be the absolute like minimum. You can get like dog pools, like, which is what I use. My dog pool is like 6.5 feet across, and that's definitely a pretty good size for them. With call ducks specifically, I've noticed that they tend to be kind of afraid of like deep water. I don't know. I know some call ducks don't care. That could just be mine. But so we had like a koi pond, which is of course like super deep. And the ducks just like don't like it. So that was in our front yard, and then in the backyard we had the kiddie pools, and the ducks seem to much rather go in the kiddie pools than the deep koi pond. I don't know why. That's just what they seem to like. But I've noticed that if you're looking at like larger breed ducks, they're definitely gonna prefer a pond over a kiddie pool. Munchkin's been great lately, honestly. She's just hanging out. She's been like mating quite a bit with the other ducks, but unlike Sugar, she takes it a lot better, and she's not missing any head feathers, so that's good for her. Do the ducks eat what they wear on their heads in the photo shoots? So it depends on what it is. Like, if it's like, I don't even remember everything I put on her head, but like the strawberry, she did eat the strawberry, but I did a lemon once, and ducks can't actually have citrus fruits because it can cause calcium absorption problems. So she didn't eat that. And of course, when I put candy on her head, she doesn't eat the candy either. They're so cute when they just like hang out. Salt and Pepper are doing amazing. So for those of you who don't know, I hatched 2 ducklings last year for a friend of mine. They live about 6 hours away from me. And so I have gotten a chance to visit Salt and Pepper as adults, and then I still get updates on them all the time. Actually was just talking to another friend of mine who lives near that friend that has Salt and Pepper. And she was like, they're doing amazing. Apparently they're laying a ton of eggs because they both ended up being girls. And it's super exciting just to see how well they're doing. I love them. I currently have 9 ducks. Someone said their call ducks are terrified of strawberries. How did you get her to love them that much? Honestly, that's how I feel about peas. I found that almost every duck I've ever met is obsessed with peas, but mine won't even touch them. So I think it's just an individual preference for the ducks, honestly. Charlie asked, do my other ducks like ice? And it depends on the duck. Like Munchkin is, of course, obsessed. Donut and Bubbles seem to like the ice as well, but they're not like obsessed like Munchkin is. And then I have never really seen the other ducks have any interest in the ice. And I haven't heard of the secret life of swans before. How hard is it to get the ducks to stay still? So Munchkin's really easy at it. As soon as I put a camera in front of her, she pretty much just like poses for it. She's just a natural at this. The rest of the ducks, that's why you don't really see them in as many pictures and stuff, because they tend to run around a lot more. But I have noticed that little avocado toast right here, she's really good at just hanging out too. So they're in their little teenage phase right now, so they're super nice, but I'm hoping they stay super nice, because that would be awesome if Munchkin could get like a little bit of a break, I guess, which kind of doesn't even make sense, because it's not like she really does anything when I film videos. Like, she literally just stands there, but I feel like I'm making her work, even though she's not really doing anything. She's just getting tons of extra treats and ice water. My most unique duck breed is probably the East Indy. I don't believe there's actually that many like mating pairs out there in the world. And so East Indy ducks lay black eggs that slowly fade to gray and kind of white as the season goes on. And the ducks themselves actually start off being born all black, and then year by year they get more and more white feathers. My ducks are definitely loud. This breed is called a call duck. They were quite literally bred to oh my gosh, sometimes I can't talk. They were literally bred to call other ducks. So they do have probably one of the loudest duck calls of all ducks. Do I like female or male ducks? Well, I have to say, male ducks don't have the kind of health issues associated with laying eggs, so that's definitely a benefit of male ducks, but personally I prefer my females just with the current flock that I have. I do use hardware cloth around their pen, so I actually have hardware cloth on all four sides, on the roof, and buried underneath the rocks, just so that nothing can dig over, nothing can climb over, and of course nothing can get through into their pen. I take predator proofing quite seriously. Some might even say I take it a little bit too seriously. But I can't risk losing them, you know what I mean? Someone asked what color should their poop be, and it should be the color of whatever they eat. So if your ducks are eating a lot of greens one day, it's probably going to be green. If they're just eating mostly duck food, it's probably going to be brown. If you feed them like strawberries, I know some people feed their ducks tomatoes. I don't really recommend tomatoes because they're super acidic. But if your ducks did eat tomatoes, they would probably have more of like a red colored poop. They have a super fast metabolism. Like, they're pooping every 15 minutes. So really, whatever they eat, that's what the poop is going to look like. Yeah, I agree. Hardware cloth is expensive, but it's definitely worth it. Like, I mean, even keeping just keeping like mice out of there, it's like nothing can really fit through the hardware cloth except for, you know, insects. They're so cute. They're just hanging out. So hash brown Montana and avocado toast seem to enjoy the car quite a bit, and Munchkin likes the car, but the rest of my ducks don't seem to really be a fan. The ducks don't necessarily fight, but they do establish their dominance through the pecking order, so they do kind of like peck at each other every once in a while, and when you first introduce new ducks, they definitely fight quite a bit just to kind of establish their dominance, but once that's kind of figured out, then they're quite friendly. I'm not really planning on getting any like new ducks anytime soon. If I did see any female call ducks pop up at a rescue, I would take them in a heartbeat. But I'm not really planning on like, you know, trying to find any. My favorite color of call duck, it would have to either be the white ones or the penciled call ducks. I really was excited. Or pastel. I think pastel is really cute, but I don't even have a pastel call duck of my own. Swan CC asked if I have any other animals. I do. I have a hamster named Chip. I have a cockatiel named Cassie. And then we also have dogs and, of course, lots of fish. Munchkin is outside right now, but I do have Sugar in here. She's just drying off in there. You can get ducks at a lot of different places. You can get them at poultry shows or fairs, from breeders. Technically, you can also buy them online, like from hatcheries, or just from local farms and stuff. How old is Munchkin? She is going to be turning 5 in just a few days. So I wouldn't say they're allergic to any shampoos, but I don't recommend using any kind of soap on ducks simply because they don't need it. Soap would strip the oils off of their feathers, and the oil is what keeps them waterproof, which is super important to kind of keep them afloat while they swim. So the only thing that ducks actually need to stay clean is fresh water. How big are call ducks compared to mallard ducks? So mallard ducks are actually considered a bantam duck themselves. Call ducks are just slightly smaller than them. If you get like the show quality call ducks, I'd say they're about half the size of a mallard duck though. That was about wild mallard ducks, not domestic mallards, because pretty much anything can be considered a domestic mallard. How long do call ducks live? So this is a kind of a loaded question because it depends on a lot of different factors. In the wild, a typical mallard duck is going to live 5 years or less. In captivity, a typical duck could live maybe 10 years. A very well cared for duck on a perfect diet, though, could live into their 20s. We don't see that very commonly because they're not typically raised as pets like I'm doing. They're usually raised as, livestock. So it's hard to really know what the true life expectancy of a duck is. And I don't know if we'll ever really know because it's not like people are like researching this like they are with dogs and cats. But, I hope that all my ducks can live into their 20s. I have shown my ducks. I was in 4-H growing up. I'm actually a 4-H leader now. My advice for showing ducks is just to really understand the standard, which is just a book, basically how they're like judged on. If you don't have the book, I would recommend getting the book. And just picking a breed that is, healthy in general. Like show quality call ducks, I find that they're typically not very healthily bred, if that makes sense, like Sugar here. Sugar is one of my considered show quality ducks, but she's very far from it, if that makes sense. She has more health issues than any of my pet quality ducks, just because of her size. And also, even if you don't know what you're talking about, just speak like you're super confident when the judge is asking you questions. How many times a year should ducks go to the vet? I recommend just once a year for your annual checkup. And if you have like a super large flock, it's not like you have to take all of them because most of the time, if one duck has some kind of contagious illness, they all have it. So you could get away with just bringing a couple in. Yes, all of my ducks can swim and they love to swim. I have 9 ducks total. This guy, that's Sugar, not Munchkin. She was swimming earlier, but then she hopped out. So I always see all these other ducks online that like obsess over peas, but mine are like afraid of it. It seems that they don't really, at least mine don't really love peas. Who are these 2 ducks? This is Avocado Toast and Hash Brown Montana, my newest ducks. Hash Brown is the one with the black bill, and Avocado Toast has the striped bill. I do have other animals. I have a hamster, I have birds, and dogs, and fish. So these young ones will join the adults once they have all their adult feathers. So I know it looks like they have quite a few adult feathers right now, but you'll see like on Avocado Toast, those like little spiky things on the one side of her wing, those are her feathers still growing in. So these babies can't just hop out of the entire tub by themselves because they don't have like their full wings. So when these guys get tired, they just sit on the ledges over here. And then of course I take them out. I've found that my adult ducks don't really love oats, but with the ducklings, oats was just a regular part of their feed because I wanted to cut down the protein level so they weren't growing quite as fast as you would if these were farmed ducks. How often do you change their bedding? So that totally depends on what kind of bedding you're using and like what method you have for that. So like for my adult ducks, I'd say about like once a month I do a full like deep clean. I know some people use sand bedding and that they can kind of scoop like cat litter, so they just kind of clean it, more regularly. It just kind of depends on what you're using. And I have found that hemp bedding doesn't have to be cleaned as often, and it also doesn't seem to smell super quickly like other types of bedding would. How do you deal with bumblefoot? So I would make sure to first find the root cause of your bumblefoot. Like, how are your duck's feet getting cut in the first place? Are there sharp rocks around? And then how are the ducks getting actually stuff like into the cut? So, for example, my ducks used to be on like soil dash like mud ground, and of course they could cut their feet on like sticks or rocks, and then they could get bumblefoot because they're stepping in mud, which is of course dirty, and then that's going to cause an infection in the foot. Now, right now I have my ducks on pea pebbles, which are little rounded rocks, and so the round rocks they can't cut their feet on, and let's just say they did get a cut on their foot, they're not walking around in their own feces, so they're likely not going to get an infection. Now, if they do get bumblefoot, true bumblefoot, that would have to, the bumble itself, which is like a seed, would actually have to be extracted. But most of the time, a lot of the bumblefoot that I see isn't truly bumblefoot, so it can just be healed with Prid, which is a drawing salve, and Epsom salt bath soaks. What is the duck's coop made out of? So the part of their like coop that they sleep in at night, their shed, is just a plastic coop or a plastic shed. And then on the bottom we have like hardware cloth, just so nothing can get into it. The funniest thing my drakes have ever done is sometimes they get stuck upside down after they're done mating. Like they'll try to flip off the back of the female duck and they get stuck on their backs. And I think it's funny because they deserve that after they do that to the female ducks. Yes, I do love Morgan from Goldshaw Farm too. If you guys ever want to like know about like traditional farming, but in, I guess you would call it, a more ethical way, Morgan is definitely a great channel to check out. He does super cool things, and he started from not knowing really anything about farming. He's kind of proof that anyone can do it and anyone can kind of figure it out. Oh yeah, me too. Like my ducks are pets as well. Like I don't use them for meat, or well, I mean I do use their eggs, but I didn't. That's not like their purpose. Their purpose is just to be pets. You can learn a lot just from listening to farmers, because honestly, farmers are the ones who kind of domesticated ducks in the first place, and if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have these lovely little pets. Honestly, these guys are my dream breed of duck. I love call ducks and really any kind of duck. I also have an East Indian. I would love to add some mini silver appleyards in here too. I have considered geese. I think like a pair of guard geese would be super good for the ducks, but I definitely could not have a goose in the setup I have right now. I would need something much bigger just because they have more space requirements than ducks. So we are hitting our 59-minute mark here. So probably going to be only live for another minute or so. But thank you guys all for coming. I really appreciate you guys showing up and supporting us. Thank you to everybody who's bought badges or sent supers. I really, really appreciate that. And thanks for coming. Hopefully I'll be live again in a few days. Somebody did ask, do I vaccinate my ducks? No, there are currently no vaccines that that our vet would recommend for them. There are a few vaccines that ducks can get, but the only reason they would really need them is if they're coming into contact with wild waterfowl, which is not something my ducks will ever do. So just not something that our vet recommends. But thank you guys all for coming, and I hope you all have a quacktastic day. And hopefully I'll be live again soon and we can talk again. Bye, guys!